Greetings. It is I. Cars, trucks, and vehicles in general. You use them, and they use these things, and those use this stuff. But it's not the best for the environment, and most notably, it's in limited supply, which means we can run out. But fear not, but there is a solution. No, that's not what I mean. But first, you must understand how vehicles work in the first place, in order to understand the problem at hand, and therefore, understand our solution. To understand how vehicles work and what the problem is in the first place, we must first understand how engines work. This is a reciprocating internal combustion engine, a device used to convert the chemical energy of a flammable fuel into mechanical energy that can be put to work. My assistant here will help put that into perspective. Take it away, assistant.
This is an engine. A very simple one, mind you, but it will do perfectly to demonstrate the inner workings of an internal combustion engine.
This right here is the piston. It connects to the part called the crankshaft via the connecting rod here. These engines, well, most of them, have a 4-stroke cycle called the Otto cycle. It operates as follows. The piston moves down, creating a vacuum that pulls in air and fuel through an open valve. Once this piston reaches bottom dead center, that means the piston is at the bottom, it will move up, which then the intake valve will close and the air-fuel mixture will compress, thus heating and packing the air and fuel particles tightly. This is the compression stroke. Once the piston's at top dead center, which conversely means the piston's at the top, and the mixture is compressed, a spark plug will be used to, as the name suggests, generate a spark. This will ignite the air-fuel mixture, causing it to rapidly expand in a process not too different from lighting a small puddle of alcohol. This expansion generates an immense amount of pressure on the piston, causing it to move downward. This is known as the combustion or power stroke. Once the piston's at the bottom dead center once more and all the usable energy has been extracted, the piston will move up and an exhaust valve will open, removing all of the spent gases in the process. Once the piston is at top dead center, it will begin to travel back down, at which point the intake valve will reopen and the cycle will begin anew. So essentially, suck, squeeze, bang, blow. What? That's how I summarize it. Now that you understand the basics of how engines work, you can easily learn what the problem is. Sorry. That happened early. Anyway, we should now look into and understand the issue at hand, or more specifically, the exhaust stroke, as this is where our problem exists. Not so much the stroke itself, but what it dispenses through the exhaust valve. The spent gases that are left over after combustion can vary in makeup, but for the most part, and in the best case scenarios, is made up of H2O and lots of carbon dioxide. And therein lies the problem. Why is carbon dioxide bad? Well, care to do the honors?
Wood, who do you think I am, the unassistant? For this lesson, we need to change the scenery. Lovely day out, is it not? Bright sun illuminating the greenery below, the occasional white fluffy cloud, and a bright blue sky. Ever wondered what that blue is? That is the atmosphere, my friends. It's the blanket that keeps our world warm, the thing that allows us to breathe, and the shield against the sun's rays, so we don't get so we get less skin cancer. It also happens to keep in all of the CO2 emissions, bringing the whole blanket analogy up to 11. This causes the atmosphere to warm up, causing climate change.
A truly awful calamity. But we're not without a solution. Isn't that right? Isn't that right?
Oh, sorry, I was just buying some vegetable oil and 100 proof alcohol, which also happens to be the solution. Are you gonna do that transition thing?
Oh wait, you're right. You now know about engines. You know about the problems we have with them, and now it is time to discuss the solution we hinted at the beginning of the video. We are talking about biofuels. Now the fuels used in cars and trucks, gasoline and diesel, are something called a hydrocarbon. What's a hydrocarbon? It's basically something made up of hydrogen and carbon. Yes, thank you very much. I wouldn't have figured that one out. They also tend to be flammable, which is good for fuel in an internal combustion engine. What's this have to do with anything? Well,
That is a very good question. Hydrocarbons are very stable and have great properties for combustion, even as derivatives, such as this alcohol right here. It's very effective for combustion. How is this a solution? Well, this means there are many options for substitution, most notably hydrocarbon and hydrocarbon derivatives, which we'll call alcohol from now on. Derived from plant-based matter, the most notable of which is ethanol and biodiesel.
that is correct. Not only are they substitutions, they actually have a number of benefits over our more traditional petroleum counterparts. Biofuels such as these produce significantly less carbon dioxide and are quite less emissive than our current fuels. On top of that, the little carbon dioxide they do produce can be reabsorbed by the plants used to create the fuels. And that leads right into our last point. Biofuels are completely renewable. They're made from plants. We can grow this fuel. Honestly, it's impressive that we haven't incorporated this by now. With seemingly no drawbacks, why haven't we... Wait, no, please, no. Yes. Unfortunately, like most things in the world, it isn't that simple. There are issues, challenges, and even arguments against biofuels in general, such as infrastructure. We've yet to develop the necessary pipelines to transport the stuff, nor do we have the gas stations to provide the fuels. Another challenge is being sure that the crops used to produce the fuel are grown properly. Avoiding monocropping in this case would be paramount to ensure that we don't create the second Dust Bowl. And lastly, the food versus fuel debate. Floating around is a controversy arguing on whether or not using crops such as corn, soybeans, and other crops that humans consume would eat into our food supply. Many argue that this would cause an uptick in hunger. Another argument is that due to the challenges present, biofuels wouldn't end up being beneficial anyway. These are valid arguments, and good points. There will be challenges. The fact that challenges will exist is not unique to this one thing. Everything we have ever innovated has come with its fair share of challenges. Though biofuels may need a bit of setup before the benefits are seen, in the long run, they will serve perfectly for replacing our current fossil fuels with a renewable and more environmentally friendly alternative. Cars, trucks, and vehicles in general. The fuels that run these engines have shown their flaws in their sustainability and environmental compatibility. But we have discovered today that alternatives exist. And though there will be challenges, and even pushback, integrating new fuels into our vehicles with enough development, research, and above all, determination, I can easily see our roadways being that much cleaner. And with the faint smell of cooked vegetable oil. Wait, who in God's name ends an essay like that?